All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it happens to be. Hello, Illuvium community. Hope you're having a fantastic day, regardless of where you are in the day. And we're going to be trying something a little bit different here today. I've got the purple on. I'm all, I guess, snazzied up a little bit. Going to be trying something new. We're going to be starting off the show here today. We're going to be keeping it to our usual 2-hour time frame, but to open things up here, I've been having this idea for at least a little while now, and I think what I used to call the streams before, I used to call it a Good Morning Illuvium, kind of sounds like a morning show or a news show of sorts, right? Well, today, we're actually going to give that a shot. I have a new project of sorts, so I'm going to try my very damnedest to do maybe once a week here. And I'll get into it a little bit more, but we'll start off with a news-esque kind of show to get things rolling. After the fact, we'll be doing we'll be doing a tier 0 run, because personally, a lot of my tier 0s just suck currently. I was looking to level a couple of them up over the last couple of days, and I realized outside of maybe one or two, I don't have a very good tier 0 collection, and of course that's the free-to-play stuff. That's the things that anybody could get into without spending a dime, so I mean, no excuse essentially. I should be hopping on in there and trying to get some more alluvials with better stats to maybe boost my early game presence a little bit more. Of course, tier 0 is not necessarily going to be your late game carries by any means, but I mean, if you find a good couple of them, they could stick around on your team for a little while. So, hunting the tier 0s, maybe trying to find a couple of replacements, because majority of my tier 0s are around that 30 TPI mark. Yeah, we have a lot to improve on, so that'll be the goal here for today. But without further ado, bring this music down and let's slow things down just a little bit. A bit of a dramatic slowdown here, as for the first time here on my stream, we do have This Week in Illuvium. So this is going to be essentially my news show, sort of speak. So let's hop into it right here, right now. So what in the world is This Week in Illuvium? So one thing that I've been noticing over the last little bit, kind of scouting out the content creation side of Illuvium, is that sure, when there's a bunch of announcements and a bunch of new things to talk about, sure, everything seems great. However, in these quieter periods, there do seem to be a lot of major lulls, and a lot of them, like, just, it's almost too quiet, to say the least. So, This Week in Illuvium is going to essentially be our chance to kind of go through the community and see what's been going out, spotlight anyone who's making any sort of content. Let's take a look, of course, at like the arena statistics, take a look at alluvials, take a look at Illuvium 0 plots, and kind of go through some of the data side of things a little bit, and what kind of interesting things we can find there. Why This Week in Illuvium? For the longest time, of course, I called my streams Good Morning Illuvium, but I realized a couple of things. First off, it sounds a little bit cheesy. It sounds like I'm going for a Good Morning America kind of esque kind of title, which has been done to death. Two, let's be honest, half of y'all, it's the evening by the time that I come online for all of y'all anyway. And three, let's be honest, I'm probably not having a good morning. So it just lies all over the place, to say the least. So it's going to be This Week in Illuvium, and we'll go over all of the topics that are on hand here. And the nice thing about these topics, that it doesn't necessarily need a brand new announcement to continue. And if there is any sort of crazy announcements, though, we'll absolutely be sure to take a look at it. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the current Illuvium Arena meta. So, of course, we've gotten the opportunity for a couple weeks now to compete on what it used to be known as Leviathan, but now, of course, Ranked has changed into a ownership-based kind of style, where your alluvials, and actually having your own alluvials, of course, takes the forefront and is very, very highly prioritized, to the point where even just having a level 1, but with decent stats, can sometimes carry you through the early game extremely nicely. And with that, though, we do have a bunch of stats that we can take a look at. So over here with Illuva data, or with the Illuva Volt, rather, here in Illuva Vault, do have a couple of statistics I want to take a look at, especially taking a look at the most used alluvial augments. I feel like to anybody who is watching Illuvium and playing Illuvium prior to the Leviathan switch, or the ranked switch up, or rather the ownership switch up, this first one probably doesn't surprise anybody. The Restorating Impact Reactor, I mean, people would stack these things, and just being able to get health and resistances alongside a bunch of attack damage, crit chance, and whatnot. This basically has everything you need for a carry, especially a melee carry. And with that, it does not surprise me that it's number one. Number two, this one actually kind of surprised me a little bit, but it's just never a bad pick, so to speak here. We do have the Tessellating Omega Reactor, where it's going to be the 3 bonus energy on every single attack. This is what I would oftentimes refer to when I'm playing as the engine, because every single Omega Power, like, focused unit definitely wants to have it. I know I'd love to have one of these on every single one of my spellcasters if I could. Oftentimes get the engine rolling, and then get the Omega Power to start hitting a little bit harder. Now, in regards to the imprints, I mean, these can be a little bit out there, so I'm not going to focus too hard on them. However, seeing Fighter picked up is probably no surprise, just being able to synergize with a lot of the current carries in the game, and just free up getting attack speed. Speaking of attack speed, the Hyperforce Reactor is currently going to be, I guess, the 3rd augment that is on the list in terms of usage. Just even still, they hit the same with the Nerf bat so many times, but it still does not matter. Just getting stacking attack speed over and over and over again on every single attack is just so damn good. And we've got the Charge Force Reactor going to be moving up here. Just the pure damage boosts that this thing gives you is really starting to stack up quite nicely to a lot of these alluvials that do end up having very good attack damage stats. Maybe very good TPI as well. And throw this onto like an Exalted Monkey or something like that, and oh dear god, it hits like a truck. Last but not least, here in our top 5 anyway, the Trinity Pulse Reactor. No major effects, it's just a matter of the stats that it gives you. It's basically your Trinity Force here. You basically have a little bit of everything, but no actual special ability. I do find it kind of odd, though, that there is only the 1 tank augment currently in the most used alluvial augment section, and that's going to be your Hollow Stasis Reactor, where you do get the shield based off the holder's resistances every couple of seconds, every 8 seconds it looks. Now, of course, let's take a look specifically at win rate, though, because there is one thing that I did want to, or 2 things I did want to point out. Just because something is the most used doesn't necessarily mean that it's the thing that wins the most often. And we are kind of seeing that here when we switch on over from usage rate to win rate, where we see the Converging Impact Reactor. So this is where 1% of your max health gets turned into physical damage. With a lot of alluvials, now that the actual ownership stats matter, even some of your tankier alluvials can actually start dishing out a pretty decent amount of damage. Even if they're supposed to be a tank. But this is extremely beneficial to alluvials like, say, Jotun, for example, where they're just naturally extremely tanky as well, but yet they are also a fighter. So seeing the Converging Impact Reactor up here is a surprise, but at the same time, I guess it kind of makes sense with the new style of ranked play. And then the Disruptive Force Reactor, the old Fate Sealer from back in the day, while it may have lost some of the attack speed right off the rip on the augment itself, you still do get, or no, maybe it was a nerf to its attack speed, but still has it. But being able to get that stacking 5% attack speed on every single takedown, while also inflicting that clumsy buff, is still very useful. You don't see this used anywhere near as often. Like, to compare, for example, this Disruptive Force Reactor only used 27 times over the last 3 days, compared to the engine, as I would call it, which has 151. So a lot of times you see somebody picking up an air-based composition. This thing is still extremely valuable, considering air don't necessarily have the tankiest units, but they rely a ton on dodging. So this basically just shuts that right down. So even though the usage is low, that's why we see the win percent so high, because when you do pick it, it is very valuable. And taking a peek over here on the legendary side of things, of course, legendary augments we do not see anywhere near as often. Legendary games only show up every once in a while. I think the amount of times they show up is in like the single digits in terms of percentage. But when they do show up, it does definitely throw a loop into things. And Berserker's Flurry seems to be the favorite, just being able to get attack speed, some crit amp, but also some attack range. Just takes a melee carry and make it just that much more deadly, while also keeping it safe. I know the stereotype is essentially to throw this onto a slash-in, for example, and it basically just turns into a ranged machine gun. You can throw this onto a greater monkier, or not a greater monkier, an exalted monkier, and it just turns into an absolute missile launcher, basically being able to swing away with its fists from behind your tanks, which is very, very useful. So no surprise that it's picked up so often. But the Limitless Surge is interesting because it has the highest win rate currently, and this one gaining 10 Omega Power, and then every 5 seconds gaining additional Omega Power, and then Energy Resist Piercing. So it seems like in these legendary games that the Omega Power based kind of compositions seem to be doing a little bit better. Maybe your Scion or your Invoker kind of compositions are doing quite well. As much Invoker as I do play, I have not gotten an opportunity to truly try this out. I definitely wish to do so sometime soon. And a very, very similar nature here with the Power Cubes. You give this to a Furiox, for example, or Scoriox, and it goes absolutely nuts. Max health as additional pure damage. Because with the Illuvials as well, again, they have ownership stats to worry about now. And with them having these bonuses to their HP and their resistances, anything that is max health based in terms of damage is just that much more valuable. So that's why we see, say, 6 Fire just that much more valuable nowadays. Similar scenario here with the Power Cubes. Going to find some additional benefit moving on up into the 3rd spot. The Transcendent Relic as well. After 15 seconds, getting a massive buff to your health, damage amp, and damage reduction. Basically turns a carry of sort into an absolute monster. And then the emergency button, but basically on the legendary side, where you get the Omnivamp, Omega Power, and then become untargetable once you get down to 25% health. Again, to a squishy carry, an absolute lifesaver. So that's your top 5 in terms of completion. Pretty much the exact same idea in terms of win rate as well. The only thing to notice is that Omnispark actually seems to take quite the dive, and the Nova Heart, where you just get the raw health and thorns, tends to jump up a little bit. But now, how about our weapons? Let's take a look and see. We kind of get an idea of what is currently being the most popular, I guess, compositions as well by looking at the weapons. First and foremost here, let's start from the top. So this Elderwood Staff has been in much more popular demand weapon as of late, and from we can see here at the top bonded alluvials, it all seems to be, or we got the got the Railu, which suggests Templar play, and being able to get Templar extremely quickly as well is a nice little power spike there. But you can also go for Verdant Mystic by going with the Blazonite or Fernite or something along the lines. Heck, you could probably even do it with an Archos as well. But being able to get Mystic from the Ranger, get Mystic from, say, like the Greater Apon as well, a very, very cheap Mystic that you can get to just absolutely buff up your team, make it a brick wall. And then eventually, of course, you want to get to Theodorius as well, which is also a Mystic. Heck, maybe even throw an Ebb onto that. But from what I've seen so far in Ranked, those players that have the amazing collections, they seem to really love bunker compositions with heavy shielding and heavy just health regeneration. Mystic absolutely loves that. Templar absolutely loves that as well. And even the third most bonded alluvial here, the Gnarl. So that brings Aegis into play as well. So that's a Verdant Aegis kind of style, it looks like. But the idea just being that you can supercharge one alluvial in particular, or whatever's right next to you. Yeah, just being able to kind of bunker down and just survive basically anything that gets thrown at you. That's one of the most common team comps I've been seeing so far on the ranked ladder. Number 2, currently in terms of win rate, is actually going to be Mud, it looks like here, with the Sylphid Blade. We do see, while there is the Adorito and the Goliaths picked up here as well for possible Alluvials to bond to, 9 times out of 10, if not more, you're basically going for that Monk here. You're trying to get that Berserker, you're trying to get Mud online, and in a setup like this, where again, there's all these stats available, another thing that does become a little bit more valuable is actually stealing stats. So Mud being able to steal stats and pass it to your other Alluvials, even as somebody who maybe doesn't necessarily have the strongest Mud units, being able to steal and then use it for yourself has been one way that a lot of players have been getting around not having a great collection, and it absolutely makes Mud pop off. But what is even scarier is when that Mud team is actually very well leveled, very good stats on top of that, because then they're just stealing more on top of their already incredible stats. So I think I'm probably going to actually have a video myself in regards to Mud, because I feel like we could see a resurgence, or we're in the process of seeing a resurgence here of Mud getting back into the swing of things here. And I'd love to be able to cover that a little bit more. In terms of number 3, the Grove Sword. So this is a little bit of a mixture. By having the bond with a fighter, of course, you do get Berserker, so you do see Monk here back in there getting Berserker. But you do also see the Furiox being picked up here as well to provide Arcanites, given an Arcanite partner. So any of these teams that are kind of like nature in nature, and you'd have the Furiox or the Scoriox as your main damage source, having the Grove Sword and then bonding to it to give that extra Arcanite for that extra little bit of firepower is absolutely disgusting. So we've been seeing that quite a lot here. It doesn't quite show exactly which of the augments themselves are being used, but that is a-okay. A surprising one here for me anyway. I do not see this Arrow Edge used anywhere near as often, but we do see it here in the number 4 spot. Majority of the time actually being comboed up with the Caradulo to enable Behemoth, a Behemoth Frost kind of style, which of course would go very, very well with a Jotun. So getting your Polar Bear to be your main carry, and we do see the Archos as well as the Monkier. The Monkier, this all makes sense for the Monkier side of things, because you're just trying to get Berserker. But interesting there for the Arrow Edge into Archos as well, because that turns into some sort of Templar play. So a nice, very flexible weapon there with the Arrow Edge. And even though I haven't necessarily practiced it myself, I can see why a lot of people like it. Especially since as of right now, it doesn't feel like Jotun is anywhere near as contested as some of these other Alluvials. So being able to supercharge it, turn it into a Behemoth, that's one way to do it. Last but not least here on our top 5, it will be the Ripple Flail. Of the 57 uses, I would like to take credit for maybe about 15 of those, because this is definitely my weapon of choice personally, and specifically with Archos. Getting that Toxic Aegis kind of style going is a way that I personally love to do this, but this is not the only way that you can play with the Ripple Flail, of course. I've done some stupid stuff like turning it into a Mud Aegis composition, but it looks like some other players are trying some other ideas as well. With the Ripple Flail being able to bond to the Jotun line, you're able to get your Frost Behemoth, giving your Jotun another Behemoth partner and enabling that power spike to happen. Heck, having the Malura as well, now you have a Mud Vanguard, which could either tie in very nicely if you happen to have another Vanguard like a Slash In, for example, or a Stab In. Or if you do have Mud and you just want to give your Gorilla another dive buddy, it is another way to trigger Mud. So interesting to see our top 5 in terms of weapons. What else do we have here? Top suits. I believe we have some suits down here. Let's take a look on the right-hand side of the page. It might be a little bit cut off for you. Don't worry, I can quickly make an adjustment. And throw it over just a little bit. Get on out of here. Suit. Okay, here we go. So the current top suits is what we're going to be looking at next. And of course, regardless of which platform you happen to be on, I do have the chats open So even though this is a little bit of news, I'm still completely a-okay with having dialogue back and forth with everybody in the chat as well. So Squawk, hello, good morning. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for joining. We have the most used suits, and this is currently done by win rate. Let's take a look at our top 5 currently. Number 1 is actually going to be Temporal Flare. We are getting the additional attack speed to allies on every second Omega. It's one that I've not necessarily played around with too much. I definitely should if I'm seeing this strong of a win rate, though. The explosive tempo, where attacks are granting an additional 2% attack speed, and then every 5 attacks has an explosion dealing attack speed as physical damage. Yet another suit that I've just not been using, but apparently it's been doing quite well. Number 3, the evasive momentum, where every 3 seconds you gain 80% dodge chance for a second, and then after dodging you get 40% attack speed and movement speed for 2 seconds. The 4th best suit, where during combat, or once per combat rather, at 50% health, you snap on over, you blink over to an ally with the lowest health and heal yourself as well as that ally for 50% of their max health. That one is a nice little get out of jail free card essentially there for your ranger. I know I've definitely tried it a few times with, say, the Aqua Blaster, for example. All of a sudden a rogue is on my ranger, I can zip over to somewhere else. But I can see it have good usage with, say, tanks as well, being able to dive back to another tank to heal yourself up, or just get out of a bad spot. A very strong suit. And the last one within our top 5, this one, no matter how many times it gets smoked with the nerf bat, it seems to still be here. But on combat start, the ranger plus 1 ally, the one that's closest to it, gains true sight and attack range. So again, being able to allow, say, something like an exalted monk here, for example, to be able to hit air units consistently with that true sight, and then attack those units from behind their tank thanks to that plus 4 attack range. It is a beautiful suit and a fantastic suit. Goes very well with Aegis units. Since my ranger is usually right next to my carry anyway, this is just one extra little buff on top of it. So very strong indeed, and that kind of wraps up our top 5 suits currently. How about our drone augments already on the right-hand side? You want to take a look at that as well. We do have the Veteran's Might. This is where you take your tier 4s and give them attack damage plus Omnivamp, or 2 random tier 4s. This is basically the tried and true one of the augments you absolutely need for the Unstoppable Umber composition, where it just never dies and keeps healing. If you get this and you're going for Umber, I mean, you've basically, it feels like you've won the game. It's possible it could be plus 2 attack range, and the website just didn't necessarily update. You're probably on to something though, Squawk. 100%. The Omega Overflow, so this is just where you get additional Omega power. Seems to be bumped up quite a bit here with a 50% win rate so far, and that is just, I believe, 10 or 15 Omega power, so it's not even necessarily that much. Pretty crazy to see. Fortress Protocol, where you get the additional resistances at 70 and then 30% health, is going to be up there. The Offensive Boost, where you get 2% of essentially every single offensive stat, going to be up there. Fighter Module going to be there as well, but we'll skip the module. But Glass Cannon, specifically Glass Cannon 3, going to be up there, is pretty interesting. So at stage 3, if I recall correctly, it's a 20% buff to your attack damage, but you take 10% more damage in return, depending on the kind of composition you're going for. I mean, that's completely a-okay. You're going for rogues or something, and you just need to delete the opponent as fast as possible. I mean, a-okay. If you have a tanky enough front line, and then you can just give 20% additional damage to a carry of sorts, even with like kind of outweighing the amount of damage you're taking, that could be very valuable as well. So Glass Cannon definitely getting up there, and it's cool to see that 3 of these drone augments are the newer augments that came in the latest patch. And one thing I'm very surprised about is actually the lack of Solid Start, because a lot of people have been kind of complaining about it. We see Solid Start 1 here in 8th, But we don't see Solid Start 2 or 3, and I do have this specifically set to win rate, I think, right? Yeah, it's set to win rate. Excuse me. And they're not quite up there. If I change this to usage, does that change? It does move Solid Start 3 up to 7th. But let's do quickly actually take a look and see based off of usage, where we're going to see battle momentum, where you're getting the attack speed every 5 seconds. Lightning speed, where you just attack faster with movement. Damage amp, lightning speed again, and battle momentum, just attack damage, or not attack damage, just attack speed all over the place in the top 5 there, but it doesn't necessarily translate into win rate. Something to keep in mind. So just to kind of then, while there isn't necessarily a top team comps section here, we can again kind of take a look at our weapons to sort of get the gist of what is currently going on with our current state of the game, where we're seeing either Verdant Mystic or Wildfire Templar kind of being the top one. Mud is up there as well. We do have another nature-based kind of composition here with the Grove Sword, with maybe some sort of Wildfire Arcanite potentially. Get the Forest in there potentially as well, and that could be an absolute devastating composition. Seeing a little bit of a rise in Frost Behemoth, with both the Ripple Flail and the Arrow Edge both kind of leaning towards that kind of way. And then a little bit of Mud and a little bit of Aegis, of course. I know I'm definitely kind of influencing the Aegis amount of usage there in my own personal play. But also, if I go maybe a little bit lower down the field, we do also see the Flame Warden staff come out here in terms of getting the top 2, or getting into the top 2 of the lobby. And we're seeing yet another just Inferno Templar kind of style, or potentially even like Shock Mystic. Is that what I'm looking at? So based off of compositions, it's a little bit odd. I'm very, very used to seeing a rogue weapon up here. We do not see the Verdant Cleaver at all in our top 5 currently, which is very, very interesting, because at least in the longest time, we've seen Verdant Cleaver in the top 5 teams basically for as long as I could remember. So not seeing it on the website at all is very, very surprising to me. In fact, where is it? Oh, okay, based off of the most effective weapons here on the right-hand side, it has it labeled as number 6. So okay, rogues, you're not necessarily gone, but it is weird to see it falling out of the top 5. Hello, Big R. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. And any other outliers here that used to be extremely strong? This has to be wrong. Earthgrasp Scepter should not have a 0% win rate. I do not think. So that's kind of surprising. But otherwise, in terms of the arena itself, that essentially is everything. I do very quickly want to hop on over to our leaderboard currently in the arena. And I do see the question there, Big R. I'll gladly take a look at that in just a moment's time. I might not necessarily have the answer you're looking for, but I'll mention it in just a moment while I have this thought in my head here. So this is our top, I'll go over the top 20 in terms of the arena leaderboard. So leading off the charge here on an absolute grind since the beginning of this season, Junior 3 is leading the charge here. One of the few people in Grandmaster 3 with almost a 4,000 rating, currently leading the charge and our top player. But there is one stat that I do want y'all to take a look at here in just a moment, which may put a swing into things, but I'll go through our list here first. Puzzles, hello, welcome. We've got Afflunk in second, then Bon Daddy Ratty, Nocacho, Hector, we've got Nocturnal, Never Lose, Goofy Rampfire, IG with Sam Benjamin, Sprites, Web3 Gaming, got from Team Apex, we've got Marchenka. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Then we've got Kirito from Team Hype. We've got Ballistics. We've got Lars. We've got Scorpion, Red Jack, some idiot, Warrior Ace, and Ice Ranez is going to round up our top 20 with Illuvium Hunter in Pursuit. But the one thing that I want to quickly take a look at is actually the average placement that we see right to the right-hand side here. This is, I believe, going to be a big telling sign as to how the rankings are going to fluctuate over maybe the next couple of days or going into next week's analysis, because you see a lot of these players into our top spots. They're kind of within, like, say, the 1.5 average placements. They're having a good time overall, usually getting kind of like first or second. There's a couple of players in the high 2s, which are still very, very good, but they've kind of gotten their way up there by playing a ton of games, but still performing very, very well in them. But then there are a couple of outliers. Say Web3 Gaming TV Hype, for example. Of course, IPL Pro did very, very well last season as well. And you can see currently a 1.1 average placement. Basically, never, ever falling out of first. And I imagine as long as the effort in terms of actually playing the matches is there, we will see a lot of these players that have a lower average placement or a better average placement start to move up the ranks rather quickly. So in terms of our top 20, for example, right here, right now, like Junior's probably okay. Pretty much majority of our players up in the top 5 are probably okay. I do fear a little bit here for Nocturnal and Never Lose. Potentially maybe their collections or their Illuvials maybe just a little bit weaker on average because they're having a little bit of a harder time closing out victories in games, but they're doing very, very good at getting podiums. I do see them potentially, if a lot of players do end up starting to play a bunch more, that they will end up falling a little bit. Web3, of course, I mentioned them. They'll be on the come up. Kirito Hype as well, 1.2 average placements. That is a very, very good one as well. I imagine Kirito going to be shooting up the ranks here as well. Lars doing quite well for themselves. Scorpion as well. Look at Scorpions here, 1.2 currently in terms of average placement, on an absolute tear. And that pretty much rounds up our top 20. So I imagine going into next week, we'll see a little bit of a switch up. And it should be interesting to see. And just because I see them, speaking of people who have probably a godlike average placement, sure enough, the best average placement I've seen on the list so far, Dr. Spoon, who just showed up here in YouTube chat. First off, hello, good morning. I hope you're having a fantastic day. But 2, holy smokes, dude, 1.08 average placement. That is absolutely incredible. That is literally just then a limitation on time. The games go in there. I see Dr. Spoon shooting up the rank as well going into next week. Absolutely incredible. And then in terms of my rank, yes, I am currently 18th right now. I kind of referred to myself as some idiot earlier, but that's just me. Now we do also have one more leaderboard that I want to take a look at here, and that's actually in regards to Illuvium 0 or the fuel burning. Because of course, unfortunately, the overworld leaderboards, those are no longer a thing currently, but Illuvium 0 still do have a leaderboard to compete for. So let's take a look at the top 20 here as well. Currently, it's going to be Test 001 leading the charge with Fuel Burnt. Finn and Willow, pew pew pew. We've got Yabeezer, Sherlin, Crispy Vectors, and what I find very, very interesting is just how different everything looks. Just because somebody's like really into Arena doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be into Zero, or if they're into Zero doesn't necessarily mean that they're into Arena. Then we have Teresa, Genius Khan, HJ Wee Wee 001, Jub, Perky, Primax. Hey, one of our IPL players from before, 2-time IPL winner Fury Hype, still on the leaderboard one way or another, but on the fuel burning side in Illuvium 0. On Quinn Wei, going to be 14th, Kaimax 15th, No Game Shear in 16th, Sergio going to be in 17th, Matty in 18th, Draknyan in 19th. Apologies if I mispronounced the name there. And then to round up our top 20, it is going to be Septera, but also a shout out there to Junior 3, who of course was leading the Arena ranked leaderboards. So doing quite well in both leaderboards. so far here for Junior. Squawk in the chat, my top 3 right now is Web3, Dr. Spoon, and Bond Daddy Ratty. And honestly, that's a killer group right there. I can absolutely agree. Maybe the order, potentially different, but it's probably those 3. 100% I agree. Absolutely. Next thing I'm going to be taking a look at here is some of the top sales that have currently happened in the Illuvium marketplace. Of course, having the access to blockchain technology does allow for all of our alluvials, all of our lands and items to all be tradable and sellable to each other, which is quite a nice little thing. Even as somebody who's not very heavy into crypto, I just love the utility, and I want to shout out maybe some of these big moves potentially happening here on the marketplace, and give a shout out to those who may have gotten themselves a little bit of a Christmas gift for themselves. I'm going to take a look at Illuvium Beyond to start things off here. Let's take a look. So over the last 7 days, taking a look at Illuvium Beyond, the Hollow Reinforced Sepphoris is going to be the profile picture that actually ended up getting the highest value at a $54 USD price. A very, very beautiful one at that. Alongside here with this Hollow Supercharged G-Shock Earth Doka. That one definitely, I believe the G-Shock stuff was only a limited time event kind of thing, so a nice little pickup there for themselves. How the heck does a cigar go for 37 bucks is beyond me, but heck, it is what it is. Same thing here with the neon green party slides. That's kind of funny. Where's my clown nose at? I'm sure I probably took somebody off just thinking about that. The Giggling Crunk is going to go for 24, and then the Crazy Seer rounding up our list here with 17 USD. How about the Illuvium Zero plots? Let's take a quick look at that. Right here, right now, over the last 7 days, we did have a tier 4 actually go for sale for over $1,200, $1,287 to be specific in UTC, and we do, or not UTC, that's a time zone, dumbass, USD. It's been a morning, to say the least. But yeah, that Tiger Boreal tier 4 plot going for 1,287. In second, another one above 1,000 here is Shard Bluff, going to be going over 1,000 here. We got Crimson Waste. These are some tier 3 plots, if I do recall correctly, rounding up our top 5 with a 326, a 214, and 203 respectively. Gonna round up our top 3, and our last top 2, or tier 2 rather, is actually a Brightland Steps plot here. So I just actually want to click on number 1 real fast. Big shout outs to, oh, I was going to shout out the username, but it's actually just an address. But either way, congratulations on your new plot. I hope you have some fun with it. Now, how about the alluvials themselves? What did we end up finding here? I do seem to have gotten a emote in here as well, so we'll disregard the emote. But let's take a look at some of these. Someone went on a Dark Hollow spending spree, it looks like here, because this is absolutely ridiculous. That is from all. That's probably why. Let's switch this back to 7 days. That's a little better. Starting at the bottom, a Stabbin actually got sold here for 43. Quickly want to take a look at this Stabbin and see how much of an absolute legend it is. Fair enough. If it's going for 43 bucks, it better be an absolute monster. And it absolutely is. We would argue that this is a perfect stat alluvial, and this one is now going to be owned by Doctor. Doctor, if you see them in ranked, start crying immediately because you're about to get slashed all over the place, aren't you? Then we do have a Jokel going for 49.59. This one going actually to Junior, our ranked leader, is going to be battling it out with this absolute bad boy, literally only missing a little bit of Omega power to make this thing perfect. I mean, it's basically almost perfect as is anyway. You've got the attack damage, you've got the attack speed, you've got the bulk. This thing is absolutely nasty. Congrats, Junior, on that pickup. Let's take a look here at this Phosphorus, going for 66 USD, now owned by Doom. And you can see as the higher tiers this thing ends up going, the crazier the prices tend to end up being, even if the statistics are not perfect. We do end up seeing here, though, this is actually pretty damn close to perfect for the most part. You've got the attack damage. This is arguably essentially for the sake of a phosphorus, the bread and butter. Having that attack damage and attack speed is absolutely beautiful. You have resistances and movement speed. Unfortunately, lacking on the Omega power, lacking on the health. But the one thing I've not mentioned is this thing is a hollow, an absolute beautiful find, a shiny phosphorus at that. Congratulations, Doom, on your pickup. I look forward to hopefully seeing it in the arena, or maybe in the MMO sometime. How about this Outerito going for over 100? It actually ended up getting burnt. Oh, somebody was going for a big ticket Adorius. I don't think it'll actually let us see where it ended up going, does it? I don't think it did, but this is a fantastic Outerito. Somebody was going for a beautiful Adorius. I definitely hope that it ended up going in their favor, because that is a crazy, crazy gamble. $103 US to try and go for what would I imagine be an absolute monster. If you land a beautiful Adorius, I mean, we'll take a look at it a little bit later, but my God, you're in for a good time. Junior 3 also picked up this Rip Lance, again, nearly perfect, just missing barely a little bit of Omega power, but still an absolutely fantastic pickup. Shoutouts to Tipsy there for the fusion onto this beautiful, beautiful Rip Lance. Understandable why this one's going for over 100 at that time. What was it exactly again? 138 onto that Rip Lance. So honestly, this thing will carry you beautifully. As somebody who uses a lot of Toxic Aegis, I would be on cloud 9 if I had that, 100%. Taking a look here at the chat here. Chasing Tier 0 needs some Grokkos. I feel that my Grokkos definitely need some work as well. It was a rough burn by Izil, for his fuse. 1 point in heal. Holy smokes. So some of these players are going for the absolute best of the best and expecting nothing less. Which leads us to our most expensive alluvial of the last 7 days. It's this phosphorus that is currently owned by Positivity. They are currently having what is probably the most beautiful phosphorus I have ever seen so far, with a 94 TPI and completely maxed out on offensive statistics. Majorly only missing movement speed, that's fine. Phosphorus is fast enough already as is. That is not a big deal in the slightest. Maxed out on resistances and only 1 point away from max health as well. This thing is an absolute fiend. Another one that was captured here by Izil. And the second time we're seeing their name kind of get brought up here today. Oh, the Master Shard, damn right you better catch this thing with the Master Shard. If this thing ran away from me, I would probably jump off a cliff, I swear to God. But Positivity, now the owner of this beautiful, beautiful phosphorus. Thank you for the Positivity, Squawk. Glad you like it. That is all in terms of top sales. Let's take a look at the next topic at hand here, where I quickly want to kind of touch on the Illuvium 0 biodata. Of course, a lot of people see Illuvium 0, get kind of excited in the idea of how to get involved. Of course, it was definitely advertised as one of the main ways that you can earn for those play-to-earn players out there. Illuvium 0 is one of those main ways that it could really get the job done. And with that, of course, there is a little bit of a barrier to entry in regards to the paywall of the lands themselves. So I do want to very quickly hop on over to Scoriox's application here. I'll go over this a little bit more, but on Scoriox stats, I'll put this in the description of the stream later on. But Scoriox stats.app. So we do get to see how many Illuvium 0 plots were traded over the last couple of days and exactly what people are actually picking up here. So in terms of total plots, everything across the board, regardless of tier, only 24 plots were traded in the last 7 days, with the volume going down by about 20%. And to be fair, we've been on a little bit of a lull here in the Illuvium 0 side of things. We don't necessarily have anything to look forward to right now, so I can understand why it's a little bit on the quieter side. But if we break that down a little bit further, a lot of those plots are actually the tier 1 and tier 2 plots, which are honestly the best value in terms of your entry level. If I do actually take a look, I think I have it open here. That's our phosphorus from earlier. But like say a tier 1 plot, for example, you can get into Illuvium 0 now for 36 bucks. That's way cheaper than the 1,000 bucks I had to pay a long time ago. But it is perfect in regards to actually getting involved. And I think a couple of newer players are coming in, starting to get involved. And honestly, that's a fantastic price point for something like this. And God forbid if this does end up becoming more valuable later on down the line, you've set yourself up for a lot of success. If I take a look at the tier 2 plots, for example, so a little bit less in terms of a bottlenecking on resources, you can actually get tier 2 plots for under 100 bucks now. That is almost unheard of. So these plots, I imagine we'll see a couple more sales in the future here for this week, because these are actually some really, really decent prices here for these plots. And if you enjoy a city builder kind of style game, then absolutely hop on in. Just sold a Virtuous Emberlings, and it was Junior that bought it. Junior's on an absolute tear right now, my goodness. They're already doing a fantastic job, and I know personally I have a very hard time with them in the arena for the most part. I think we trade back and forth pretty well as of right now. But as soon as those alluvials of Juniors actually starts leveling up a little bit, I feel like I'm going to have an absolute terrible time trying to play against them. Illuvium 0 can be played on mobile. Yes, absolutely. TSG, hello, welcome, welcome. Going well. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. Or fantastic evening, rather, I should say, for yourself. Yes, the majority of people, I do believe, play on Illuvium 0 on mobile, which is an absolute benefit to it. Being able to hop in and just essentially get all your resources, get your fuel, and everything done on the fly without being tied to the computer is an absolute blessing. Now, how about the alluvial data? Let's quickly flip that over. Close some of these tabs here so I stop getting lost in the in my tabs, so to speak. Here we go. Right back to the Scoriox app. Let's go. Okay, so for alluvials traded here, over the last 7 days, we did have over 1,055 alluvials traded, with the value going up compared to last week. So what this is telling me, while yes, a little bit less alluvials are being traded, those that want these alluvials seem to be more on the competitive side. So they're actually willing to pay up a little bit more. And like we kind of saw here, especially with Junior in particular, finding a lot of these higher statted or these stronger alluvials and then be selling a little bit more. And the interesting thing about this too is that this is just strictly for ranked right now. There is absolutely no actual announcements for anything in regards to an IPL Season 2 or anything in regards to another tournament actually happening yet. Yes, there is Discord discussions kind of just like randomly being thrown out, but I don't cover that because if it's not an announcement, it could change 100%. And honestly, it changes like 95% of the time anyway. So as of right now, for all those players like looking strictly for when the next tournament will be, right here, right now, there's nothing. Yet people are still getting their teams ready. So, and personally, again, not financial advice, I expect this to go up. 100%. Probably going to land in the play for work. Honestly, yeah, that's actually a fantastic opportunity. I know I'm definitely guilty of, back in the day when I had first gotten my land, I'd be working in a Walmart electronics section and I would just hide my phone under the counter, so to speak, and level up my plots that way a little bit. I've definitely done that. Soda, hello, good morning. Can I send the Illuvidex link showing the top 7 days sales, please? Remind me in a few moments, and I can absolutely do so. Now, of course, Scoriox's app here does go into more detail into regards of which actual types are kind of being sought after, which, if we do take a look at it, it looks like air seems to be kind of leading the charge in terms of total trades, but they're a lot cheaper. It's the nature units that seem to be a little bit more sought after, and especially, say, for phosphorus, for example, that makes sense. It's a little bit higher in that regard. You want to eventually kind of crunch down on this a little bit more later on down the road, but there is another way that I want to show off which alluvials are kind of in need right now in the Illuvium community. Of course, again, that's financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do, but this is just my guess based off of what I'm looking at. So, of course, be sure to keep that in mind. Very quickly, going to throw Sota that link here in just a second. Of course, all these things that I'm looking at right now are things that you can look at throughout the week as well, because these are all just on other people's, essentially other people's websites. So definitely recommend checking them out, have them bookmarked. Catch up with me later on in the week, but if you need the stats quicker, you can absolutely get it quicker. Trying to get to that link here, Soda, in just a second without breaking my stream. Fox Oracle, welcome. Quickly gonna snag that here for you. My computer is chugging trying to get this done. My apologies. My apologies. Yeah, so this is just right on the Illuvidex site, right off the main page. I'll throw that in our chats here, so every chat will be able to see this, or rather Twitch and YouTube will see this right here. But this is just right on the Illuvidex. Scroll down a little bit, and you'll see top sales right there. Okay. Now, in regards to the alluvials that are kind of most sought after here, I'm going to go essentially through each tier and try my best to kind of give you something to shoot at. So whether you're going for a stage 1 run, stage 3 run, or, spoiler alert, a stage 0 run, what kind of things are sought after, you'll get to see here. So let's swing on through. Take a look at this here, starting off with the Atlas. So one thing I'll mention, yes, there are way more alluvials listed than currently seen here. However, I have this set to what I would argue is fighting fit statistics for alluvials. So this is anything from TPI of 85 to 100. Because basically, I argue that anything below 84, you're probably open to looking for a upgrade for. If you have something 85, you're much more likely to put time into leveling that one up and essentially keeping it. So this is my mindset, where if you're going into the marketplace looking for something that you're going to keep, have it filtered that way. So with that, say the Atlas, for example, we see here like 155 Atlases of fighting fit. That's perfectly fine. Like, sure, 86 for a couple of tier 3s. This is probably completely fine. I wouldn't argue that they're scarce at all. You could find a ton of Atlases, for example. But say the Appons, though, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Exalted Appons do seem to be in need right now. 35 currently on the Illuvidex, with our lowest fighting fit being about 60 cents. But granted, it's a little bit low on this end here, so probably around 90 cents. So this Appon, the greater Appon rather, or the exalted Appon, potentially in need. Let's go by tier actually here so I don't get lost. Let's go with other tier 1s, keep everything within check. Okay, let's start here. How about Kuka? How are you holding up here? There are hundreds of basically everything fighting fit. That's a-okay there. Same idea. Granted, Chikondi is a little bit on the lower side, 72, but not terrible. And it looks like just overall the mud units are a little bit on the lower side, with about 50 listed. Even then, though, I wouldn't necessarily call that super, super low. What I start getting interested in is when I see like maybe 30 or less. That's when the alarm bell starts ringing here for me, like, hey, there's an opportunity here. And then there's one tier in particular where I did see a lot of this. So, lynxes, I mean, with there being so many different lynxes, and the fact that you're not guaranteed to use each lynx in every single battle, a lot of people have been essentially kind of ignoring lynxes. But you'll see here, I'm not going to go into every one, but if you manage to find a fighting fit lynx, there is not very many for essentially every single stage 3, heck, even the stage 2 lynxes. There's less than 50 for every single type, and it's extremely, I guess, may not necessarily the most extremely sought after, but at least I see that it's kind of scarce. So here, I'm going to take one example here with the empath lynx. Let's see, where does this end up going? So a fighting fit lynx is already going to be at least $1, and let's be honest, if some sort of announcement happens where people are looking to get competitive, I can imagine this potentially, again, not financial advice, but it could potentially go on up here. So keep an eye out for your lynxes. I know it might seem like a little bit of a mundane kind of encounter. It's not the most exciting of encounters, unless you're me because I have a lynx problem. But if you happen to have the opportunity to just at least check these lynxes, especially these stage 3s, because you never know what kind of beauty you can end up landing on here. Like, I'm looking into some of these stage 3s now. There's single digits available in the current Illuvidex. And let me take a look here one more time here for, say, like a perfect combination where you have, say, the Earth Bulwark. One more time, we're at least looking at $3 here for a Stoic Terror Lynx, and I imagine that this is only going to get worse. Or, yeah, a proper fighting fit Lynx. Because, yes, 100%, the floor is way lower for some of the lesser strength alluvials. It's not me saying here, for example, with these stage 3s, it's not that there isn't any stage 3 lynxes available. There's probably hundreds of these stage 3 lynxes, say like the Nature Bulwark lynx. I'm sure there's probably hundreds available. But how many of them are actually fighting fit? And that's where my filter comes on in here, where we're getting single digits worth of alluvials. Take a look at the tier 3 and see what we can find here. Starting off with the Anteaters, I mean, Vermilias and up to Vermiliers, they seem fine. 50 alluvials essentially a piece, not looking too scarce at all, at least in my opinion. The Komodo Dragons, though, the Blotto, running a little bit low. Slashin' is extremely low, actually. Let's take a look at Slashin'. I mean, we know this thing is an absolute monster, notorious during the Illuvium Pro League, and it's not going to be stopping just in ranked play either. People seem to be scooping these up rather consistently, with the minimum price here being just over $5 USD. And with it being a very, very popular carry, it just essentially goes up from there. You can even get a 90 for just under $20. And this one, okay, it has 4 attack speed instead of 5. But even still, that would be an absolute monster. So Slash-ins seem to be definitely on the market. So a nice little pickup there. What else do we see from the tier 3 side of things? Monarchs seem to be in a very, very similar position as well. Only 33 available. Riplances are definitely not just... Is this just the entirety of the Riplance line actually in need here? Seeing the stage 1 with under 100 is actually very, very alarming to me, that even the Riptor has less than 100 listed. The stage 2, the Riptorus, less than 100 listed. And then for the Riplance as well, going to quickly take a look at the floor price here for a Fighting Fit Riplance is currently $16. That is absolutely the highest we've seen so far, and the highest for the tier 3s. And you can see that a lot of our, like the TPIs in this instance here, just kind of spike heavily. Like 90s are all across the board, right around that $20 line, 30, potentially even more. So Riplances seem to be in demand if you happen to have the ability to fuse a nice one. Again, not financial advice, but it does seem to be in demand. Which makes me even happy that I have my dear Rip Lance. Granted, it's only a little 74, it's just a little guy, but I'm happy with him, 100%. And then that's where we can start kind of gamifying the market a little bit. Soda's got the right idea. Like, I wonder if it makes sense to buy up all the slash-ins, because Overworld Hunters will just produce more in reaction. I mean, I'm not going to tell you yes or no, but I mean, it could be onto something. If you do, though, of course, at your own risk, please. Everything else looks pretty well fine here. The only thing kind of scarce at this moment would probably be this Gnarl, just under 50. Let's take one more look here at a tier 3 at this Gnarl, see where they kind of stand, considering Gnarl is probably the most splashable tank in the game currently. And we do see that kind of reflecting a little bit here in the pricing, as it's actually a little bit on the lower side, just under $2 here for this Gnarl. But then after that, you're starting to look more towards $5. Let's take a look at some tier 4s next. Let's switch on over. Again, tier 4 is all sorted based off of being fighting fit, and we see right off the rip, even the little mammoth themselves, little stage 1 under 100, but look at the actual fully evolved mammoth here, with under 20 available if we do take a peek at the floor of this stage 4. At the very minimum, it is a $26 alluvial. Now, of course, as I'm going up in tiers, I do expect the price to go up as well, because honestly, the rarity goes up as well. And with that, the listings will be much, much smaller as well. But especially, even still, even with them being a tier 4, when I see stuff like this, where the Seer, only 24 available that are currently fighting fit, and the price is definitely reflecting it. Again, close to that 25, maybe $30 mark, if not higher. So if any of my overworld players here out there are looking to provide a couple of strong alluvials to the community, this would definitely look like a good time. But again, not financial advice. I have to keep repeating myself, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Holy, only 14 Blazonites available. I want to keep on going and peeking at all of them, but I'll be here forever if I do end up doing that. So I'm going to take a look at a couple of our carries, but at the same time, heck, even the bears. Okay, let's just look at them. If we manage to find a decently leveled polar bear, again, just above $20, and then going into the 40s. If there's any alluvial in particular you want me to take a look at, please shout it out in chat as well, because I'll gladly do so. I've been showing a lot of love to a bunch of the tier 3s. How about the tier 2 polar bear? With under 50 fighting fit polar bears available, even the stage 2s are going for about $10 a piece, if not more. Heck, some of those stage 2s are more expensive than the actual fully evolved variant. How about Fur Knight, for example? Usually very splashable onto a lot of teams. A fighting fit Fur Knight is currently going for, let's say, about $10. This one's actually stupid cheap. I would gladly snag that for myself. My Fur Knight is definitely one of my weakest on my roster. But then how about the Blazonite with only 14 Blazonites currently in the shop? Let's take a look and see what's there. At the minimum, you're going up to 23, and you're pretty quickly going to be looking into the 30s and into the 50s, it looks like. A couple things to note, too, with some of these alluvials is that they're actually not just level 40. A couple of them are already close to level 50, which is going to give you a nice little power spike once you get into the arena. Take a look at the Scoriox line, take a look at the Dash line, and I'll probably essentially go from there. I still got tier 5s to take a look at. This week in Illuvium, of course, first time doing this, and I seem to be on pace to essentially make this show take the entirety of our stream time today. But I'm personally enjoying it. If you are enjoying it, of course, be sure to let me know as well. I'll definitely be more inclined to do this once or more often, or keep the weekly show going. I know that this is something that everybody seems to be liking. It does look like Furioxes are about 15 bucks a piece currently to get a fighting fit one. Blazonite's the only one missing in your collection. Perfect ones are crazy rare. Okay, there you go. You heard it from Soda. Something about Blazonites just seem to be a little bit more rare as of this moment, so keep an eye out when you're out there. How about Scoriox? Find a fighting fit Scoriox? Is it honestly cheaper than a Furiox right now? Holy smokes. I think I might know what I'm doing after this stream. My current Scoriox is only TPI 34. That would be a massive, massive upgrade. Last but not least, let's peek at the next, or the final carry, and then we still do have, I want to take a look at Flood, because Flood is also very splashable, no pun intended, into these teams. If my computer can keep up. Okay, so the Rake I want to take a look at, so the Stage 2 variant. With 40 currently being listed, the minimum price here of this is currently being shown as $7, but as soon as you get up there, or past the first one, they start going into the double digits extremely quickly. Of course, getting that unstoppable Umber kind of composition is still very, very strong. It's having a little bit of a harder time with a lot of the focus seeming to be on corner compositions and just constant healing, but it can still perform very, very well. And then speaking of Umbers, let's take a look at the Umber currently, the highest floor that I've seen currently on our stream here today, with the cheapest Umber being 43 for a fighting fit Umber, rather. My goodness, and this one's already level 60 as well. That's another sleeper pick. Currently owned by Thyrane. A nice little pickup there. Yes, so for those looking to build up the collection, get them into some fighting fit states. Couple good pickups there. I accidentally back up all the way into my tier 3, so I'll get back to the tier 4s here in just a second. Last but not least, I'm going to take a look at the Flood in particular. Probably one of the more underused Illuvials currently in the game, and I imagine that the price is going to reflect that. It's about standard with everything else. Not too bad. Just hovering around that $15 mark, with the weakest or the lowest being an $8 Illuvial. Take a look at the tier 5s, and then I briefly want to touch on the tier 0s. And of course, with the tier 5s, these are all of the hardest to find Illuvials in the game, and with that, you're going to see that the listings and the prices do also reflect that. Like, say, for example, just the baby beetle here, the baby Scarabok. The baby Scarabok themselves is just already going to be at 25. To find a fighting fit Scarabok is so difficult, and we're going to see, in fact, I'm going to take a look at the Scarabok. If I wanted one that was above 85 TPI, what am I looking at? I'm already looking for this little baby here for a $26 price tag, if not higher in this instance. Squawk, by all means, go for it, mate. They're all yours. Take it. This is what the show's for. Take it while you can. Then getting into, say, a middle stage evolution, let's take a look at the Goliath. Hovering around the same price, but I mean, look at that jump there. There's two Illuvials that are pretty, like, I would say, relatively reasonable or relatively cheap, but then it doubles essentially all the way up to 60. My goodness. And then lastly, just to kind of complete the line here, with only 7 Titanors fighting fit listed, we are into the hundreds. This is where the money is at. The big stage 3 tier 5s. Granted, trying to find one of these things, trying to fuse these things, takes a long time, there's no guarantee, and it's expensive to even get there. But if you manage to get one, then my god, you are sitting pretty. Only 10 Adors currently here. I know we saw somebody earlier trying to fuse for an incredible Adorius. We'll take a look at that, and look at this right here. Just the stage 3 themselves, that is a 91 TPI Ador. Or 33 currently, and it just goes up from there. That is absolutely incredible. The floor for fighting fit Illuvials. And let's see here. If you're willing to sacrifice nearly perfect Adoritos, what are you shooting for? And essentially, you are shooting for essentially at the very, very minimum. Because I'd argue that this Adorius is probably cheap. Is just oddly enough very, very cheap here at that 100 mark. Seeing some of the 200s is probably a little bit more, I hate to call 200 reasonable, but given the situation, reasonable, because we're getting into multi-hundreds here for some of these Adoriuses, to the absolute ridiculousness to where an absolute perfect Adorius being sold for $3 million bucks. I mean, I get it. I absolutely get it. Only one Dual F. And it happens to be hollow as well, which I imagine is going to jack the price up. Yeah, no kidding. Nearly 20k to get this beautiful 91 TPI hollowed out Dual F. So I was thinking how I needed to upgrade my Dual F. Well, I guess I'm not doing it this week. I was thinking about upgrading my Sinolf. It's one of my weakest spellcasters currently. And even then, it's an expensive proposition. Looking at a fighting fit one, we're looking at least 73 here. Very, very quickly, once again, going into the hundreds. A perfect one is going for like 600. That's absolutely incredible. But again, while they might be listed at that price, that does not mean that they're actually being sold at that price. So please do, of course, keep that in mind. Ramp fires seem to be very, very low as well. Alongside the ramp fight and ramp fee, only 20 ramp fees available. A lot of people's favorite carries so far in the game, it seems. Water alluvials seem to be scarce, eh? Alright, that's something definitely to keep in mind. As we do see some scarcity here as well with our Squiz line as well as the Phosphorus line. So that'll be the last two I'm going to take a look at in terms of specifics. Let's take a look at, say, a Fisto, for example. That late game super carry is at least going to cost you 100. Maxed out on Omega Power and budget stuff. 87 TPI to kind of finish that up there. Dual F plus Umber, probably the most bought alluvials since the change to Arena. I mean, I believe it. It was already a strong team composition in just the general game, but especially any of those players that went from the old Gauntlet and kind of have the muscle memory and mind of a Steam Umber-based kind of composition. I know I still have it. Anytime I still see the Aqua Blaster, like, it's basically second nature to pick that thing up as fast as possible and how to play the game from there. And if people want to bring that into the current ranked state, well, it definitely can. And yeah, you can get them both in Abyssal Basin, which is the least played region. I find that super surprised. It's my most played region. But it's just because I hate platforming and it has the least amount of platforming. Last but not least here, which I'm going to argue is probably the most scarce of all of our like tiered up alluvials here, is going to be Phosphorus. We saw it have a couple of the highest sales currently in the last 7 days. Well, this is probably why. There's only one that's currently 85 TPI. That's just under 50 bucks. But everything else, when you start getting into these very, very strong, close to perfect Phosphoruses, you're getting into the multi-hundreds. So God forbid you happen to find one, you will be sitting pretty. Let's see, last but not least here. I want to actually shout out the tier zeros. You free-to-play players out there, or just anybody who is playing just at all looking to maybe take a look at some things. Let me show you something that I found absolutely ridiculous. So currently in this state of the game, everybody's worried about the higher tier stuff, and nobody's really been paying attention to the tier zeros. That's for the free-to-play players, right? Those are your weakest alluvials. You only kind of use them at the beginning, like yada yada yada. There's an opportunity here. Again, I'd say not financial advice, however, these are free, so it does not matter. Look at the, again, with the tier zeros, you don't know which ones you're getting at the beginning of the game, right? You're not necessarily going in with, I'm guaranteeing that I'm going to use my Fire Tipo, for example. But for those that do take the time to get a good collection of tier zeros, that could be the big difference between you starting off the game on a high note or getting absolutely crushed. But it's also, I would argue, what can allow you to keep those tier zeros into your mid or into your late game composition. There's been a few times where I've had, say, a tier zero that I would actually be happy using, like say one of my Grokos. I have one Groko in particular, I think it's my nature one, that's actually, like, the greater is probably about level 30 or something along those lines. I'll keep that tank the whole game. It might be a tier zero, but I do not care. That's a-okay. There's been times where I have like landed, say, my Exalted Tipo or a Greater Tipo, and I put it there in the front line with the rest of my tanks to help keep them alive and help with synergies. So the look on my face when I'm going through this and seeing that not just the Exalteds, but to find fighting fit tier zeros or listed for the Air Tipo, the Greater Tipo. The babies, the lessers, there's only 13. Like 17 here for the fire side of things. I'm just talking about Tipo's, Doka's potential DPS units. One Exalted Air Doka. Only 2 greater, like, Earth Dokas. Like, for example, like, let's take a look at this one here. I don't expect the price to be that high, but, like, this is something you can get for free! No cost at all! Download the game and go hunt! A lot of the alluvials that I could show you, especially, like, say, the tier 1s, you might be able to get a fighting fit one for maybe $1 or $2. Tier zeros that cost you nothing to go get could possibly net you like $4. And there you go. That's a couple of like tier stage 1 runs for you. And it's like this everywhere. And it's absolutely incredible. And it's like this all the way down the line. I just hopped on over back to stage 1s, but I'm going to quickly just kind of show that this isn't just a specific alluvial thing. I'm not going to click on everyone in particular. Oh, did I break my filters? I did. Let's see. 85. And thank you, Soda. I'm glad you like it. The Illuvidex is my favorite Illuvium game. I feel like there's probably a few people that are probably in the same mindset as you. But I get it. The preparation and the collection is sometimes half the fun. Yeah, Greater Fire Doka, only 9. 0 Exalted Water Tipos. You gonna let me see Grokos, or am I just gonna keep scrolling through the same things here? Valentes, there we go, finally something different. 2 Exalteds, 6 Greaters, 1 Exalted Earth, 2 Greater Earth, 2 Exalted. Like, you could just see. I'm a broken record here at this point, but do this manually here because I'm causing the Illuvidex to have a stroke, but let's see. 1 Exalted Air, 2 Greater Air, no Greater Earth, and this would probably be the best case scenario for a Doka, or not a Doka, a Groko, getting an Earth Groko, that's probably one that would see competition relatively consistently. None. Same thing here with grass. The graders, there's literally no graders. So the point being, free-to-play players, here's my homework for you today. Go have fun in the Illuvium overworld. Explore, take your time through every encounter, just have a fun time with whatever alluvials you happen to have with you. But keep an eye out, because a lot of the community will say tier 0s are absolutely junk, pointless, and have absolutely no purpose. But to true, competitive players, that is going to possibly and potentially be the difference in them having a fantastic early game and getting stomped, or potentially having that one extra piece for their affinity and for their synergies later on down the road. They will want this. They will want these tier 0s eventually. So keep an eye out. Because as you can see, for fighting fit stuff, it's hard to find. There's probably thousands of these alluvials out there on the market. But are they actually any good? As we can see, majority of them are not. So they're in need. Absolutely, get in there. Grokos in particular are very, very valuable. Yeah, 100%. I feel like the Grokos are the easiest to incorporate into a team, but you can make the other ones work. Like, I know, I get extremely excited every time I see a Fire Tipo, because that is another way for me to turn Shock into Aegis. Or I get very, very excited when I see a Fleesh in a Nature affinity, because then that means I can actually do Verdant Invoker or something along those lines, right? Texan, hello, welcome, welcome. Good to see ya. Holiday was okay. I hope yours was better. But with that, in terms of the alluvials themselves, in terms of the alluvial data, that's everything that I've got to go for around for this week. But as you can see, there is still opportunities. I know the fun thing to do is just to sit in Discord, complain, whine, and call the game trash because you haven't 700x your investment and gotten a Lamborghini yet. But there is still plenty of fun and excitement to be had, even if there is no announcements just yet. Which does make me very quickly, as I get ready to hop on over to the community side of things. A question was asked a little while ago, so I apologize for not answering it immediately, because I know they probably would have been waiting for a little while. Where art thou? Yeah, a big arc. You had asked about the MMO. So there's been talk in the Discord in regards to when it'll be, but it's not necessarily had any sort of announcements. But from what I understand, there is supposed to be some sort of playtesting happening in January. When exactly that is has not been announced, nor do I know about it. So I'm very, very curious as to when that'll happen. I imagine that they'll probably be posting an announcement to the community in regards to a community-based kind of playtest sometime soon. It was supposed to be in December, but they pushed back for a little bit of extra time for polish. And with that, we're now in January. And we're getting close to the end of the first week of it. So I imagine in due time, we'll know something about the MMO playtest. So I know personally, I'm extremely eager to go in there, do some testing, and if I have the opportunity to, do some testing and play it out. And if I'm able to make some sort of content, because of course Illuvium did say that you can make content of it if you send it to them first and they approve it. So yes, everything's under NDA, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything. So trust me, when the time comes, I would absolutely love to just dive with both feet into the pool immediately and get that going on. But in terms of an exact date, we don't have anything just yet. It's safer to assume the playtest will just be Q1, honestly. Probably. 100%. And Big Arc, you're actually still here. Bless you for sticking around. I'm sorry that took so long. Okay. Now, in regards to the community tab, so what the heck is this going to be? So here, I do want to give a shout out to other people that have been either streaming or making content or have made something for the community, so to speak, and give them the light of day as well. Of course, I might be the most active in terms of making content for Illuvium and be out there the most often. It doesn't mean I want all the spotlight for myself. I want to see other people grow here, and I need to send flowers when it's due, so to speak. So, while sure, and a lot of my searches here will show stuff of myself, I'm not keeping it that way. So, like, say for example, I took a look at Twitch over the last 7 days here to see who else has been streaming their gameplay. So I need to give the shout out here to Big Man JB, who has been on the grind here, because according to the Twitch website, other than myself, JB is the only one doing it. And I mean, it's been wholesome kind of watching what JB's been doing this, because alongside their own gameplay, they've also gotten one of their children, I believe, also into the game, where you could hear them in the background, naming the Illuvials the proper names and whatnot, which even I get wrong sometimes, so shout outs to them. But like, he'll be playing the ranked games. They'll hear the kid in the background and whatnot, popping off over certain Illuvials. So big shout out to Big Man JB for streaming. Keep it up. And for everybody else, of course, I'd love to see more, whether you're in the overworlds, whether you're doing Illuvium 0, whether you're doing your own ranked games, it does not matter. I then want to hop on to the YouTube side of things. I have this filtered for the last 7 days. And first things first, spoiler alert, I'm going to be on the download tomorrow, once again here with Scoriox and TSG. We're going to be talking about, it looks like, the end of rewards. And here's the funny thing, of course. Scoriox comes from a more, like, crypto-based background compared to myself. I come from strictly, like, the esports and the gaming background. There are many things that we butt heads with in regards to mindset. Because, of course, I'm very, very vocal that I don't think there should be cash rewards in anything outside of tournaments or outside of special events. And I imagine, I don't know Scoriox's take, but I imagine it's probably going to be different. And there is no better instigator out there than TSG, so I imagine that we'll respectfully be at each other's throats tomorrow. I could imagine by the death eyes, the laser eyes that Scoriox has, that he's going to be triggered. So this will be fun. This will absolutely be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, that's 6 in the morning my time, but can't remember exactly off of my head for UTC, unfortunately. And of course, Scoriox had the video about their app. I kind of showed it off a little bit earlier. I'll gladly show off the app again in a little bit. But for Crypto Quick Chat, this was a video that actually caught my eye as well. For newcomers to Illuvium, in regards to maybe not necessarily the best Illuvials, but the Illuvials that you can catch early and hit a power spike early, is the mindset for this video here. So Drac or Crypto Quick Chat, shout out to your video here. I definitely recommend the community go take a look at that one, especially if you have somebody who's new to the Illuvium community, who's maybe just starting their collection. Got a bunch of highlights there from Illuvium. Of course, some dude making another fanfiction for himself. And then here, Zephyros, on the Illuvium 0 side of things, did a fantastic job of showing how they took a tier 1 that was kind of just left out to dry and did not have a very, very great layout. No commentary on the video, but you can see sped up their action, how they take an inefficient tier 1 and how they turned it into an absolute monster. So especially if you're getting into Illuvium 0, or you're just getting into making your plots more efficient, This is definitely a fantastic way to do so from one of the top players in Illuvium 0. Play to earn, okay, go burn. Got some more game nights here for Crypto Quick Chat. Love to see that as well. Play to earn. Do have a face I haven't quite seen before streaming the game. I'm just love to see that. APY is this video exists. Okay, then we do have another opportunity. I don't want to necessarily pass judgment on things in a different language because I might not completely understand. But the tier list of Web3 games could be very, very interesting. I know even myself, if there was one thing that I might someday eventually make additionally to Illuvium, it is Eve. I've played a lot of Eve a long, long time ago, and the fact that Eve Frontier is a thing does have my eye, I'm not gonna lie. Play to earn, 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 play to earn. You can see why I started making content in the first place. I'm looking for gameplay. I'm not looking for a retirement. Got Warframe in here? Altcoin stuff, ILV, yeah. So, as you can see, for the most part, but when it comes to content, for Illuvium, it's very, very few and far between that doesn't involve somebody talking about tokens. So there's definitely an opportunity here. So anyone who's streaming, anybody who's making videos, gladly show it off here. Of course, shout out to Scoriox, Crypto Quick Chat, and I think I seen, or I didn't actually give the shout out initially there, but Seru-san, I see them sometimes in the ranked arena. They did some streaming of their overworld runs as well. Zephyros for the Illuvium 0 side of things has also been doing overworld and ranked as well. So there are a few of us. And with that, I definitely hope to see more someday. But in the meantime, for those that are doing it, keep it up. And would love to see more in the future. But of course, I'm not necessarily only talking about videos. I do want to give the shout out here to ScorioxStats.app. Once again, you could probably saw me reference it earlier, firing it off here in the chat as of this moment. But let's take a look at this one more time. Scoriox made a video on how to use this, but I can very, very quickly show off as well what it's kind of about. But this is more so the analytical side of the Illuvium side of things. You saw me kind of look at the alluvial, or not the alluvial, but the land stats a little bit earlier. You can do something pretty cool actually, where you take the wallet of your, or the wallet address of your game, and you can see exactly how much it's worth. And it'll pop up down there. I'm not going to throw my wallet address quite in there, but you could also then do this in regards to your collection. And you know how I have my gigantic spreadsheet that took way too much damn time to actually do and set up? Well, I was very, very pleasantly surprised that this essentially did it automatically. And then in terms of the collection, if you're missing a piece, it actually shows you what the floor is of just having one of those alluvials. And I'm not giving it the justice, so let me input my own link in here. Kind of give you a better idea of how I'm supposed to use this. So instead of going through every single one of your alluvials in-game or in the profile, there we go. So instead of going through every single thing, it's automatically going to show you the best one that you have via TPI. So I can see it's like, okay, my axolotls are actually not too bad. Axodon could use a little bit of work, but it's still not bad. And I can see, oh god, my Ramphy line's actually pretty bad. Dash line's a little bit weak. The Scorpion is okay. You can kind of go through and see exactly what you potentially are here to work with. So instead of having my gigantic spreadsheet, you just get it just by copy pasting and then hitting refresh. But one thing I found this also extremely useful for is, say like this example here with my Komodo dragon. I didn't realize that one of my best alluvials here, one of my best headies, I've actually not been leveling. So I should probably go into the game and start fixing that, so to speak. This is basically like that across the board. Has all the links down at the bottom here as well. And my collection score, based off of TPI, maxed out from 1 million. Scoriox has a video kind of going into more detail in regards to everything. I kind of showed off this page a little bit earlier in regards to specific sales, but overall, just big shout out to Scoriox for making this app, because it is definitely a quality of life improvement compared to specifically just only using the Illuvium website. And just that alongside the other tools that we do have available. Shout out to all the tools that we did end up using today, because we used the Luva Vault, there was Data Kings, we've got Scoriox's app here, the Scoriox Stats app. Shout out to everybody that's making a little something here for the Illuvium community. We may be small, but like Soda said here, amazing economy, beautiful game, 100%. I see a couple of other people are also interested on the Eve side of things too. And I get that. Once it feels like work, it's easy to, or it's not easy to stop, but when it starts being for work and not for fun, that's when things start to get a little bit toxic. But with that, that is my very first attempt here at This Week in Illuvium. I did not expect this to take the entire time. I imagined I'm going to get faster with this moving forward, and it won't take up the entire stream time in the future. Because I was planning on doing a Tier 0 overworld run, but I don't think I genuinely have enough time to even do that now. Maybe I'll hop into it anyway. Let's see if my computer will boot it up. But we just might have to cut the run off a little bit. We could just, yeah, I'll throw it up. And we'll chill for a little bit as I look for a couple Tier 0s. Because I'm not just saying things and then expecting people to listen and then like, oh, like, trust me, this is what you should be doing. No, if I'm saying something, it means I'm probably doing it as well. So, not just necessarily for value, but even for my own collections, I want to get some more Tier 0s. So, that's what we'll do to kind of close things out then. I only have another 20-30 minutes or so, but we'll hop into it here. But also, I do want to ask everybody, I've seen a couple of positive posts here, but I do want to, like, just reach out again. Did y'all like this? Like, this kind of style of show? If so, it is absolutely something that I can start doing weekly. I imagine it's going to go, like, even more and get even longer when we actually have big announcements to talk about. Because if not, though, like, by all means, that's A-okay as well. Very, very curious. But just in case I end up making this its own standalone YouTube video, bear with me for just a moment. But that's it for this week in Illuvium. Looking forward to next week to see what kind of changes maybe we have. Do we get any sort of additional announcements? Or, well, at the very, very minimum, we'll see what happened with the leaderboards. Did the arena ranks economy change at all? And what alluvials should we be charging after? If you liked it, by all means, would absolutely love if you can drop a subscription here onto the YouTube channel. That way you aren't, or you get notified when my videos go live. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live people, don't go anywhere. I'm still here. The show is amazing. I want more of that, like, every month. I'll do it every week. But awesome, I'm glad. I still do want to emphasize that, first and foremost, I talk about the game because I, play the game. But it is nice to have, at least I think once a week, a community show like this. Yeah, if you like this, I'll gladly go for it.
Am I still in one piece? Oh, good.
There we go. Hopping on in, just closing my tabs, give my computer a little bit of extra firepower here to get the job done. And we'll switch out from the quiet stuff to the amp stuff to get me a little bit energized here. Let's do every week. We'll shoot for it. That'll be my goal. 'Cause one thing about the show and the format that it's at that I personally at least like is I can do this. I can yap about the economy for about an hour or so, probably every single week, without any announcements. So on days where we do actually have announcements, I feel like we'll be eating well, so to speak. I'm quickly taking a look here because, oh my god, have I been doing that entire thing while also under a Illuvium retweet? I absolutely have. Big thank you to Illuvium and to Albie as well for the retweets there on the stream. Good seeing everybody there on the X side of things. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day as well. Don't forget to post it in Discord. This time I did put it into the community tab. I get very, though, uneasy posting it into general. That personally does feel a little spammy to me, so I try to avoid it. But I did at least put it into the community tab this time. Leveled up a little bit. So, okay, I hopped into Abyssal Basin in particular for this run. And let me get the Scoriox app up here once again. I was going to flashbang you with my spreadsheet, but I feel like Scoriox's app is a little bit more prettier to actually use. Let me get that situated. So being here in Abyssal Basin does lead me into disappearing right off the rip. There we go. So I need essentially waters and grass if I'm here in Abyssal Basin, but I'm looking for basically anything. Water Dokas all need some work. Water Grokos could basically all use some work. I'm not going to stop looking for upgrades unless I have an 85 or higher. I have a almost godlike Water Valente, but I need to actually start leveling that up. And even then, it's just the lesser, not the greater. Fleesh, my Water Fleesh lesser one is at least okay. But as we can see, I basically need upgrades for everything. So let's just start wandering. Let's start shooting things. Let's just get into it. What is out here in front of me, honestly, is it'll just be a sea alluvial diet here. Oh, and if I see these things, I'm shooting them too. I am in dire need of ring nut for when I'm out in some of these later stage games. It's using the wrong laser. The lesser was the one thing that I didn't need, so let's hop on over to this Grotto instead. I'll take a look at this one, and then I should probably still go through all of the alluvials just to see if maybe there was an exalted hanging around. I'd hate to use my energy on some lessers and then all of a sudden see an exalted that I didn't check. And then the nice thing about this is, yes, of course, all the shards that I can use are all just the free-to-play shards. But God forbid I do find like a really, really good one. I could just use a common, and it basically acts like a master shard here for it. And because there's the exalted here, I will look to beat up the alluvial and just throw the one there. Just beat it up real quick for the experience. Kind of turn this into a little bit of a leveling session here for one alluvial at a time as well. Assuming that we could handle an exalted Doka by ourselves here. There we go. 2 birds with 1 stone. Obviously not a lot of experience, but we'll take it. And then, yeah, we'll let this guy go. And let's start searching. Okay. So I'm looking for the stage 2 or the stage 3s. Those are the main ones that I see where if you do manage to find a high TPI variant of those, there is some value there, but also not just for the sake of marketplace, but for the sake of my collection. I do need to level up the squad. Nothing but lessers to kind of start things off. Am I getting zapped by a damn morphopod? Probably. It looks like it's all going to be lessers as of this moment. A very, very dry first run here. So honestly, one thing that I can do, screw it, we're not going to stick around. This is something you can do with a free-to-play run. I'm not wasting anything by sticking around. These are free-to-play runs. There's only a 2-minute cooldown in between each run. If there's nothing stage 2 or higher, just leave and come back. It doesn't cost you any fuel. Like, I'd never do this for a stage 1 or 2 or 3 run because you have that initial cost in fuel. But again, this is the free-to-play section. It doesn't matter. It's basically very similar to the video I made in regards to hollow hunting or shiny hunting. I think the same speedrun techniques apply, just instead of being hollows that I'm chasing, I'd be chasing after stronger alluvials. Just shoot one rock and it's even faster? Oh, even better. Perfect. Thank you, Squawk. Even better, so yeah. We can just do this over and over again until I find some evolved alluvials. There's a greater earth flish. We'll take a look at that. Back around the outside. Come on through the middle. Now, the Exalteds, of course, are the hardest to find. There's another Greater Water. We'll gladly take that. This run's looking a little bit better. There's a hollowed out Groko we might take a look at. Personally, I just love the thought of having not just strong alluvials, but if it ends up being the hollow or the shiny, as people from other communities might say. Having a hollow with high stats would also be pretty incredible. Right up ahead here, there's the Fleesh. And as we load in, I'll reference Scoriox's app again. Let's see, Earth Fleesh. The Greater Earth Fleesh, the best one I have is currently a 61. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but there's still plenty of room for improvement. Do we end up finding that here today? I don't think so. Because I'm somewhat close to the next alluvial that I want to do, instead of just leaving, I will just quickly shoot it down. I accidentally put 2 alluvials on here. I meant to sell off the Furiox. We definitely didn't need 2 Scions to go beat up a Fleesh. But hey, experience is experience. We will let this Greater Earth Fleesh go. It does not quite meet the criteria that I'm looking for. And then the other one in this run was the Greater Water Valente. We'll take a look at that. and the hollowed out Roko. And if I happen to find any of the plant that looks like a brain, the one that gives you the experience, I need that, and then the ring nuts as well. Alright, there's our Greater Valente. A drone augment that would allow players to scan encounters from a distance and show TPI from the map. That would be honestly really cool, and to be honest, I feel like that's what the scan function for the actual alluvial encounter itself should have been. Not just running up to it, scanning to see what's inside, but to be able to actually see how strong it is. I would absolutely use 10 energy to scan and see if the TPI of these alluvials were actually worth it for me to encounter, or if I can just skip it. I would 100% use the energy requirement to get that. But I do like the idea of a drone augment as well, allowing you to do it from a distance. Absolutely. I like that idea, Fox. Revo, gladly give you that. Our Valente this time isn't terrible. It'll just be, if we get it, we get it. If not, it is what it is. But we'll throw the free-to-play shard at it. As I apparently get ganked by the Valente and break my game. And we'll bring it home. There we go. The Greater Water Valente going to join the squad. It's not that 80 TPI that I'm looking for, but I guarantee that it is better than the 60. Maybe not. Maybe not a guarantee, but it's pretty close. It could be a marginal upgrade, potentially. And again, free-to-play shard. Free-to-play run. It is what it is. I can be a little less picky. Now I just gotta check out the holo. And one thing that drives me a little crazy, why don't tier 0s have skins that I can make of them? I'd absolutely love to have a little Valente themed or Groko themed skin. Got it. I mean, I guess at the same time you'd be trying to... I know there's an economy side of things where then... Yes, you need alluvials to actually make the skin. And it's free to play, so I mean, it could be farmed. Yeah, there's probably a whole logistical side of things that I'm just not quite in tune with, but... one can dream. We've got an Exalted Groko here. This is the fire variant. Let's bring Tanty here. Two of them should be able to do it just fine. The little Groko, it's nothing to write home about, but it's a holo, and it's a free-to-play run. I'll throw a shard at it and see what happens. Gladly take the experience, and potentially add another shiny to the collection. Then after this, run back to the obelisk, reset, maybe get one more shot here before we close out stream. This one's gonna break away, but it is a-okay. We tried. I know I can 100% be more efficient, but for the alluvials that I do care about, I'll just use a higher shard. Lock it down that way. For the ones that's like, oh, it's great if I do, but if it escapes, it's not the end of the world. Just throw the free-to-play shard at it, and if we catch it, we catch it. If not, it is what it is. And reset and try again. Yeah, thank you all for joining me today. I had a lot of fun doing that, the new show style there with This Week in Illuvium. And I think we will do it again. I know it might be a bit of a broken record, but I'm very, very thankful that the style of the show, regardless of what's happening in Illuvium, does allow me to still talk about it, or have stuff to talk about. I'm not relying on announcements or brand new things to be able to do the show. And it seems like it's something that, for the most part, everybody's liked. So, yeah, we'll keep doing it. Alright, one more run here. Can we find some more higher stage alluvials? Lessers, start things off. Nothing so far. A hollow, I'll gladly take a look at you. There's a greater water Groko, I'll gladly take a look at that. Greater water Doka, I'll gladly take a look at that. Greater fire Groko in Abyssal Basin, another greater water Doka. Okay, the game doesn't want me to leave. Can we find any more, potentially? Not a bad little run in terms of finding graders. And that is the gist of it. So, okay, there we go. Up along this left-hand side, we'll start off with that shiny, or hollowed out, lesser Earth Valente. Potentially get an upgrade there from that. Nyom. For Valentes, as of right now, my best lesser Valente is only 64 TPI, so there's plenty of room for improvement. If we were to get an improvement off of a hollow, that would be even better. Not that hollows, of course, have any other stats. No, it'd be all for style points, but I'd still like that. Throw the little ace in there and just fire away. And this is definitely not going to be an upgrade. That thing was like 10 TPI. So we're just going to let this one go. Even though it's hollow, I think I have a hollow already. We'll just let it go. I think I have like 3 of those things already. There could be a world where eventually if I wanted to make a hollow dex, that maybe I would have wanted it, but I'm not too concerned. That was a dragon egg, not a mushroom. Flint cap, that's what it's called. That's the thing that I was looking for. Neuron. There's the Doka. In regards to the greater Doka, I had it here a second ago. 56 is the current TPI of my greater Doka, or greater water Doka. See what we can find this time. And this one probably along the same line. So we'll just beat it up real quick and move on. Let TNT get a little bit of experience here as well. Still one of my favorite catches. And there's a lot of times too where I'll be going for Invoker and I'm trying to get Sepharis, but I can never ever actually find it until the later stages of the game. So I definitely need to level up that TNT a little bit more. Even if it's just a little bit of experience by a little bit of experience. It is a little bit grindy, but is the nature of the free-to-play portion of the game, and it is just kind of nature of the game in general. That's why the MMO is becoming a thing, right? Greater Water Doka. Not Doka, Groko. Now this one that I have currently is actually 70, so it'd have to be a relatively significant upgrade for me to want to snag it. But at the same time, even something that's relatively decent maybe could be used for fusion potential? Let's pop you down there. TNT, do your thing. I mean, this has health and some resistance. I don't think it's worth one of my common shards, but I'll gladly throw a free-to-play one at it. Yeah, well, extra 200 for TNT. We'll throw the free-to-play shard at this one. It does have that max health. Could be nice. I think my other one's probably better, but I'll still give it a shot. And do we bring it home? We absolutely will. So there we go. Middle stage evolution here of this greater water, or middle stage evolution, which is the greater water Groko. Maxed out on HP, and that's the big thing. At the end of the day, I just need it to be a meat shield. And it will absolutely be able to do that nicely. Check out our other couple of ones. There was a greater fire Groko that I do need to take a look at. Since I spend so much of my time at Abyssal Basin, I might have like a decent amount of water alluvials, as I actually found the Groko, or not the Groko, the Doka here. But especially with my fire and my earth alluvials, because I, as someone who hates platforming, I absolutely hate traversing Crimson Wastes. I mean, if those that have been around for a while have probably seen how many times I've gotten lost in Crimson Wastes. And it just does turn me off of just farming there. So I imagine my fire collection's actually pretty lackluster. Alright, TNT, do your thing. This is an absolute abysmal Greater Water Doka, so we'll just beat it up and move on. With there being 3 alluvials, hopefully it's a nice little boost here for TNT as well. An extra little 100. It all adds up. I could just hit escape and then, like, proceed with things a little bit faster, or just take the experience where I can get it. I really do wish, though, that there is a way that I can set a preset and say if I just hit 1, for example, that it would automatically place my ranger with its gear attached, and then potentially even get an alluvial on the board as well. Like preset lineups, so to speak. But considering again that the MMO is a thing, I imagine quality of life changes to Overworld wouldn't necessarily be a priority, since it's probably not going to be here by the end of next year. Last one we're going to check here for today's stream. Greater Fire Groko. Let's take a look. Currently, my Greater Fire Groko, I actually lied. It's not too shabby. It's 76. So to find an upgrade for this thing would mean it would have to be a rather killer upgrade. And that ain't it, Chief. Unfortunately, that ain't it, but again, just gotta keep exploring, keep looking. Whether it be your own partner alluvial that you'll eventually get, help you proceed through the early and mid game, or maybe something that somebody else needs sometime down the road. It's definitely worth it, but it definitely does take some time. And even my streamer luck couldn't necessarily bring it this time. but that's alright. Let's bring it back home and close up shop. Okay. Now, with that, we will close things up here for today. So, game plan here for myself anyway. I'm going to hop off and I'm going to hop into the video editor. And I think I'm going to actually turn the This Week in Illuvium into its own standalone video. But I'm just going to help edit along, trim some of the fluff out. Make it a little bit quicker, because otherwise it's going to be like an hour-long video by itself. Maybe I can trim it down to like a half hour or something. Something along those lines. So those that actually saw this live, of course, big thank you. And again, I'm very, very thankful for all of the positivity. All the positivity in the on the video. What do I think about adding 70 TPI to ADR? I'm not sure what you're talking about, so I don't have opinion on it as of this moment. If the ADR is in reference to automated drone runs, like, is that certain, like, if I'm reading this correctly, can you not get alluvials better than 70 TPI in ADR right now? Or in automated drone runs? Because I'm going to have absolutely conflicted mindset towards that. Or contradictory mindsets, because I have two takes, but they both don't actually coincide. Yeah, I'm going to end up making the This Week in Illuvium its own video, and then tomorrow I am going to be on the download once again. Looks like the main topic at hand is in regards to the removal of Illuvium rewards. And of course, with myself being a traditional, a gamer, a parent, as well as an esports professional, my takes on it are much different than a traditional crypto-focused individual or Web3 gaming kind of focused individual. So I imagine that it'll be interesting watching Scoriox and I kind of back and forth against each other, with TSG, of course, being the absolute instigator with us here as well. That'll be really, really fun. Looking forward to that. And then on Friday, we'll be back with another stream. I think it'll be something along the same lines that we just did at the very, very end here. Might not necessarily be in regards to the tier zeros, but the idea of it being an overworld focused stream will probably be the case. Maybe at the end we'll do a little bit of arena, but the main focus will be the overworld collection. Having automated drone runs that guarantee 70 plus TPI, but only for tier 0. I feel like if you do it for tier 0, you have to do it for everything, or you'll eventually end up doing it for everything anyway, so you might as well just start by doing it for everything. And I mean, again, just kind of goes with the core concept of Illuvium as a whole, where if you want to have, like, if your main focus, which as all businesses would just be revenue, then you absolutely throw it in there. But I would imagine that having 70 plus TPIs available for alluvials across the board would make things much less scarce. So I guess it depends on what you value there. I can see arguments for both, or I can see arguments for all three. If you, but the way I see it, at least personally, if you do it for tier zeros, you basically have to do it for everything. And Ballistics, thank you for hopping in and tuning in. And congrats on your spot on the Arena Ranked leaderboard as well. Keep up the good work. But with that being said, I think I'm slightly in overtime, so we'll have to close things off here for today. Once again, big thank you to everybody for tuning in, whether it have been for the This Week in Illuvium or just the entire time. Big thank you again. Once again, I've been having a blast absolutely having a blast doing this. And I look forward to the next one early in the morning for me tomorrow here for Scoriox's stream for the download. Again, to those that may be just doing it for the first time, or at least in the chat for the first time, Happy New Year to all of yous as well. And I look forward to what the rest of 2026 brings us. This is just the beginning, and we'll do it again tomorrow here on Scoriox's stream. Take care, everyone.